Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Outpost. My name is Dallas,
My name's Jay. What's up, guys?
and this is a very special episode. This is a fun episode. This is our Fantasy Football Awards. So these are primarily based on fantasy output, but we tried to add our own personal little bit of variation, so it's not just a simple copy paste from the rankings of scoring that people have gotten. And you'll see a lot of those guys up there because that goes hand in hand. But we try to give some people credit for, there's other added factors like consistency versus you may have somebody that's dropped 52 times. Like if we did this last year, one of the top wide receivers was Mike Evans. There's no way last year he would ever even sniff being the wide receiver of the year just because he only had like 3 good games. So like stuff like that factors into it. But we're going to go ahead and get into this here. So without further ado, we're going to go through these. We're saving our fantasy MVP for last. The big reveal. I guess that's kind of how most awards go. I'll explain it real quick, kind of what we did. We both came up with three, or we tried to come up with three anyway. And in some cases, there's just a one and only. So Jay thought he would just only put one. So, and it's respectable. You'll see what we're meaning when we get to it. But for the most part, we would both list at least three, and if there was one that we agreed on, that won the award. Is how we did this. So like if he was good enough to stand out as one of the best of both of us, then that's the case. And in the few that we both had the same guys, it was more so the way we had them listed, who was the highest one consistently, and they won the award. So I'll go ahead and let Jay kick it off with our first ones here.
Yeah, so the winner for quarterback was the reigning Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. He was just adding things to his trophy case. And really, we had a very similar list. I had Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, and then Dallas had his only difference was having Kyler instead of Russell. And I actually kind of went back and forth between Kyler and Russell Wilson. So we were pretty close on the same page with this one.
Yeah, so Mahomes is kind of a no-brainer here. I mean, he's just been a consistency across the board all year. I think his worst game all year, just thinking off the top of my head, it's like a 15-point game, and they still like because I remember being really upset because he was doing nothing, and they were absolutely destroying whoever they played against. I can't remember what was going on that game, but they were going off, and he was doing next to nothing during that game. I think defense was really good. I think CEH had a good game, stuff like that. And so, but overall, the whole year, Mahomes has just been on fire. He's delivered on the draft capital you had to spend on him. He's just a beacon of consistency.
So when we were looking at thinking through the quarterback position, in my head is like, who's the guy that when you put in every week, you just feel good about winning that week. And we talked a lot about how early in the season, both Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Aaron Rodgers in spurts, you just had these huge blast of wins, but it also had some down weeks, and to where it didn't you weren't confident, positive that you were going to win that week. It was very likely. And it kind of came down to the fact that Mahomes just kind of a no question. This guy will probably win me this week every week. And so he's he's the best quarterback of this group, but definitely as this year, as far as fantasy quarterbacks, he would still hold that title.
Yep, yep. And depending on your formats, there are a few where I've seen Kyler ahead of him, but it's by like 1 or 2 points. And Kyler's had, I think, one or two more games where he's been less consistent than Mahomes. So like that kind of was my tiebreaker there. But Mahomes is just Mahomes is Mahomes. He's going to deliver. You don't ever have to hesitate starting him. You don't even think twice about it. So that's he wins our quarterback of the year award. That's going to lead us to our running back of the year, and the winner is of course Dalvin Cook. Just it's a respect thing. I'm sure both of us probably out of favoritism would say Kamara just because we both love Kamara, but you got to give respect where respect is due, and Dalvin Cook has absolutely killed it this year. He's been blowing up this season. I mean, you can't knock him. But the rest of our guys we had listed, I had Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, and you had a very interesting one at number two, and absolutely do. He just didn't really cross my mind. Because he is a little bit further down, but when you compare it to like what was expected of him and kind of the pressure and the shoes he had to fill, I absolutely understand. I'll go ahead and let you say who your runners up were.
Yeah, my other guy I had was Mike Davis. And I just thought about this season. If you were the guy that had CMC, you were pretty much dead in the water when he went down. Or whoever picked up Mike Davis, he not only kind of subbed in for CMC, but produced at a really high level. And so it took a team to where you might have been out of it or thought you didn't have a shot because you didn't have a running back and the other guys were taking and so forth, and were able to make the playoffs or even still be competitive by playing a guy you had no clue was going to be out there. And so we looked at like what the most valuable running backs would be. I mean, Dalvin's the clear winner here, but Mike Davis definitely carried some teams that maybe didn't have a shot, to where when you had Cook or you had Kamara, you assumed that you'd be in the title from the beginning of the year. You have a competitive team. But you have the CMC, you might have been down and out until you get Mike Davis, who kind of pulls you back into relevancy. So he didn't win the award for me, but he's definitely some guy I want to have in consideration.
Yeah, so when it comes to Mike Davis, I didn't think of listing him, but he absolutely deserves the credit that to at least be an honorable mention here. So I'll go ahead and let you kick off our next one here.
Yeah, wide receivers. The winner for wide receivers is another Chief, Tyreek Hill. I mean, the guys just had a monster season. And our list was exactly the same. We had in a little bit different order, but I mean, it's the same three guys. So Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs. Yep. And so, I mean, really it's kind of personal preference of which order those three in. Mm-hmm. But we pretty much agreed on that the best receiver for fantasy this year had to be Tyreek.
Yeah. So I had Diggs, Hill, Adams, and he had Hill, Adams, Diggs. So it was literally it's just like rotating one back, and then that was the exact same list. And so like I said, the way we did this is like the consistently most high. He had Hill at number 1, I had Hill at number 2. So like it was kind of a given. We're both more than fine with any of these three. I think it probably would have ended up being Adams had he played the whole season. But that being said, he missed games. It is what it is, and he missed. That's why he still probably deserves it because he's still where he's at with 2 missed games. So yeah, so our winner is Tyreek Hill. Again, another Chief. They're just fantasy greatness there. So we're gonna go ahead and roll on to our next one. As you might have guessed, our tight end award for best tight end of the year goes to none other than Mike Gesicki. Just kidding, it's Travis Kelce. We all knew who exactly was coming here. Another Chief, and we're not trying to be favoritism towards them. They're producing. It is what it is. There's no other way about it. And Travis Kelce's gap between him and the next guy, Darren Waller, is not even close. And this is the one where like we all listed 3 on all of them except this one. Jay didn't even list anybody else because it's irrelevant, and it's true. It's really not. Like I listed Darren Waller and then Robert Tonyan as my next 2, just to at least list them. Tonyan was one that I felt I could have went Hawkinson, could have went Gesicki, but I feel like I want to give respect where respect is due, kind of like you did with Mike Davis. I did the same with Robert Tonyan. He's just delivered this year, and nobody expected him to do anything. Sternberger was supposed to be the guy, and then DeGuara after the draft was supposed to be the guy, and Tonyan is the one that showed up, and he ended up just shutting everything down. He shut my opinion down, especially because not only did I not care who it was, I didn't think it was him, but I also was on it's the Green Bay tight end. They don't use their tight ends. Aaron Rodgers doesn't like throwing to the tight end, and he shut all of that down this year. So that's why I wanted to at least have Tonyan in there. But Travis Kelce, far and away. I mean, he's leading the league in receiving yards. The Bills game just happened tonight, so Stephon Diggs passed him up, but then when he turns around and plays this week, he's probably going to take it right back. I mean, he's a tight end leading the NFL in receiving yards. And if you go look at stats between him and any other tight end, it's not even close. I mean, he's just pure dominance.
There's nothing else for me to say. Like I said, as Dallas said, Kelce, tight end 1.
Yep.
In the story. Next.
Yep. Now go and let you kick off our rookie.
Our next one is the rookie. So our rookie award goes to the big surprise for people this year is James Robinson. I mean, the guy just came in and just crushed it. I have a friend who coached at Illinois State, and he had said, man, James Robinson's really good. And I was like, okay, stick to basketball, dude. And but they end up being right. And I mean, so I had Robinson the second for mine. I had Justin Jefferson there, and I had Justin Herbert. And we actually had the same three, just in a different order. And we both kind of agree that Robinson was the best choice for the rookie of the year for us.
Yeah, so it's one that in the actual real life rookie of the year conversation, I've been a little upset he's been left out of. Is it's been a two-man race between Herbert and Jefferson. I think Herbert's probably going to end up winning it, especially after that performance the other day. But like they're like it's a two-man race, and I'm like, man, I was like the dude was he was undrafted, right? He's not like a seventh round. He was literally undrafted, and just slept on the whole way, all the way through this process, and comes in and absolutely dominates. And depending on your format, I was looking earlier, he's like the RB4 in fantasy right now. Like that is unbelievable. And he's a rookie, and he's scored more fantasy points. And like I said, it's not just based on that, but he has scored more than Justin Jefferson. For those of you that are curious, so for me personally, it was a no-brainer. I feel like you could easily go Herbert here, but that's boring. I mean, I don't want to give the award to a quarterback because we'll leave that to the real awards because they always just go to QBs because that's just what people do. So I kind of wanted to give the roses to some of these other positions because they usually don't get that kind of love in real life. That they get mentioned out of respect and then they just never win it. And so a quarterback just comes in and takes it. So as good as Herbert has been, we both fully understand what he's done and the stakes that are at that. But we both just think, I mean, personally, even if it wasn't the case, to come undrafted and basically lead the entire rookie class in fantasy, that's just absolutely nuts.
Right.
And that's why we're giving our Rookie of the Year fantasy award to James Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, even this class we touted so highly for running backs. I mean, this guy outpacing them all. So
Yep.
a lot of respect to James Robinson for sure.
Comment below for those of you watching.
Um,
It's not going to help at all because nobody knows. I did a poll on Twitter that got like 500 votes and it ended up finishing 50-50. What do you guys think? Is James Robinson a one-year wonder or is he the man? Does he have that job from here on out? I have no idea. I wish so much that they would come out and just say, he's our guy. Just sign him to, I guess he's on a rookie contract. They're not going to give him anything. But just come out and tell everybody the job's his. Don't be those guys that go out and get Aaron Jones in the offseason or, bring somebody like Kenyon Drake in to kind of help split and stuff like that. So that's going to be what's happening this offseason with James Robinson is we're all going to be super excited for him, and it's going to stay that way all the way until we get really close. The same feeling we had with Miles Sanders. If you remember that feeling we had with Miles Sanders all offseason where we're all like, yeah, but it's the Eagles. They're going to sign someone else. Like, they don't have nobody else. They're going to sign someone else. Where's Jordan Howard? He's going to show up, stuff like that, which obviously went to Miami. But that he ended up showing up by the end of the year. But that being said, we were all just waiting for that sign. Like, we thought Jay Ajayi was going to rise from the grave at one point. Like, everybody thought they were going to sign someone, and this wasn't going to be the workload that we wanted him to have. And I feel like James Robinson's going to have that exact same anxiety all offseason. And then if we make it to the season and they didn't sign anyone else, then green light, we're good. But that's just
right.
For him to be undrafted, teams constantly second guess themselves of, was it teams didn't prepare for him? Was it just kind of a dumb luck year and he's never going to live up to this again? He was undrafted for a reason. Like, they get so caught up on the draft capital that they don't appreciate that this dude's just better. And so that's kind of what I was talking about with Minshew with this exact same team, where I told a lot of people, they're like, oh no, Minshew's their quarterback. They're not going to draft a quarterback. I said, well, Minshew has to play his way to the point where they can't draft a quarterback or they're drafting a quarterback because he was a 6th-round draft pick, and they're not going to be like, well, let's roll the dice with him this one opportunity we have, because the next time it rolls around, you're going to have a draft where, like, the best quarterback is like Dwayne Haskins, and you draft somebody like him in that class because it's the year you have the number 1 pick when you could have taken Justin Fields. Like, that's the way they're going to look at it. And so I hope James Robinson keeps the job. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but comment below, what do you guys think? I mean, if you ask me and Jay, there's no easy way of saying we know. I can tell you what we're both hoping for, but in all honesty, we have no idea. No one does. But I am curious to see how this plays out because if so, James Robinson's one of my favorite dynasty running backs to have if he actually gets the job. But never know with those kind
And
of
just to clear up
situations.
one thing you said, I'm totally on board with you, except you said everyone was kind of like getting ready for Miles Sanders' year or something
Oh
along
my
the lines
God,
of
here we go.
excitement. So just
Here we go.
all
Do you
just to
have
make
him
sure
in any
everyone.
leagues at all?
Yeah, and I can
All
have
right.
him
Well,
in
you
two
you
leagues.
drafted him somewhere, so point proven. You wouldn't have drafted him if
Both
you
orphans.
if okay. Well, I guess there's that.
Trust me, that's the fastest on the block I've ever seen. That I lived up to my name. Instead of pick on the block, it was Sanders on the block as soon as I picked up the team. So,
Man, the
my
amount of
guy.
Sanders hate. I guess I can't say much. I'm the same way with Chubb, so it doesn't really matter. But that being said, all right. So our next award that we're handing out is the Steal of the Year in fantasy, and that is going to be Mike Davis. Just like we were relaying earlier. I mean, you got him off the waiver wire, and he took CMC's spot while he was down and put up CMC numbers. Like maybe not quite the 40, 50 every week, but he was giving you like 25 almost every single week, just absolutely killing it. And for those of you that had CMC, if you were able to pick up Mike Davis, you didn't miss a step. And then when Mike Davis or when CMC showed up, you just swapped him. But for those of you that had CMC and did not go get Mike Davis, sorry. I mean, the guy absolutely killed it. I'll say in the leagues where I didn't have CMC, but I got Mike Davis, I definitely, when the CMC person who had CMC just absolutely did not want to pay up for Mike Davis, I was like, all right, I'll keep him, and carried me to the playoffs in a lot of different leagues. So Mike Davis is our steal of the year. If you want to relay any more and expand on what you were talking about earlier at all.
Yeah, I mean, just we talked kind of not too different than James Robinson, as in a guy that you didn't think that would get you somewhere. But I mean, you could have easily flip flopped those two, but we definitely had him as our rookie, so we didn't want to duplicate that there. But again, just a guy that you just picked up, and when you picked up James Robinson, he had a great week. I mean, you were like, okay, let's see if this guy maintains that or he's a fluke. When a lot of people grabbed Mike Davis, it was like, oh, let's just handcuff CMC. Just who's the next guy? I did it myself. Who's the backup running back? And they were like, oh, Mike Davis. And I'm like, okay, whatever, Mike Davis. And that was it. And so when you go into it, when you got him, you weren't expecting what you got from him. And so we definitely consider him. That's why we have him as our still of the year.
Yeah, he absolutely is the most deserving of it. Who we had listed at steals, I didn't even have Mike Davis listed, but once I saw him reveal that, I had immediately. I was like, yes, that's the perfect one. I had DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, and Josh Allen, just because of their draft capital. I mean, where you spent them versus what they did. I mean, Metcalf was my number one just because he's like the wide receiver 4, and I mean, I don't even remember where you're drafting him at. I think it was like round 5, 6. But him and Tyler Lockett were like side by side. And then Keenan Allen was like one round later. I think he was consistently 6, slept on the entire time, and he's number 5. And then Josh Allen is like quarterback 8, 9, and although he's quarterback 5, which in retrospect doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you look at the points discrepancy between him and where he was getting drafted, it's significantly higher. So those were mine. And then he had Mike Davis and Robbie Anderson, which Robbie Anderson was another really, really good example that I even think about. It took me like 6 games before I finally was like, yeah, Robbie Anderson's good.
I actually drafted Robbie Anderson, one of my startups, and I couldn't wait to get rid of him. Like this guy's was on the Jets. He's going with DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. It's a crowded receiver core. Like not I might have sold him from like a third. And just a guy that you didn't think would produce and who definitely outperformed his ADP by far this season.
Yeah, the only league I remember like actively seeking him in the draft and I ended up missing out on him was I joined one best ball league and I was like, he's somebody that could blow up. So I went that route.
So the next one is our bust of the year. Dawson had a good discussion. This was another one where I picked one player, but we did not choose that player for the bust. But we did make a great choice. Ours was Kenyon Drake. If you watched our preseason draft show episode, which is you should go back and check it out. because one of our team members was really high on Kenyon Drake, and the other one was a little bit a little bit suspect of Kenyon Drake. And so, to be fair, in all respect, he had the tools there to have a great season, and he just didn't do it. And so, I mean, in the leagues where I had Drake in the second, third round, he didn't perform there. And so our bust this year is Kenyon Drake. Dallas, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I really don't, but I will. No, Kenyon Drake, to me, I stand by this statement. I've said it all year long. I think it's 100% on the Cardinals and nothing to do with Drake for why he struggled this year. I genuinely thought they were going to expand more on what they did last year. I mean, it worked. I mean, they were doing really well, but silly old me, I've still had Hopkins projected to do a ton, but I thought they would just completely go away from everyone else in the passing game. And they kind of did what they did last year, but Eno took everything passing wise, and it made no sense to me because Kenyon Drake, such a good pass catcher. That was why I had him so high. I was like, he's going to be okay. I've got him like right at 1,000 yards rushing because, I mean, honestly, he probably could have had, he gotten the workload. But receiving was where I had him really, really thriving. I think I had him with just under right at 70 catches on the year because I genuinely thought he was going to be featured like he was last year and just be feasting. And he just, because that was the difference in this offense, was it wasn't just dump offs. Like little dump offs, you're never going to get that from a running quarterback. So like that's obvious. But like they genuinely had plays designed for him to get out and run routes. And they gave all those to Eno. I remember it was like 6 games into the year, and the guy had like 6 targets, or like 7 targets and like 6 catches or something. It was ridiculous. And I was like, this is just, there's no scenario where you drafted him, even if he fell a few rounds, and you're happy or comfortable with what you've gotten out of that. And so for that, he was our bust of the year. That being said, Jay's is a really good one. He still did okay. That's what makes me not want to do a full-on bust, but when you reference it to where he was drafted, which is the main definition of a bust, he absolutely fits the bill, and he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire as his only listed one. I guess we're trying to keep it fair and not give all the awards to Chiefs, so even the bust one. No, I mean, we just looked it up right before the show, and he really did. I mean, I'll let you elaborate a little bit more as to why when you compare to like what his ADP was and so on. So I'll let you break down why you had CEH.
Yeah, and as we said, again, our preseason, if you want to check us on our takes, man, go back to our preseason show, and not a victory lap because I've had a whole bunch of misses, but just the question marks around CEH and just his role in the offense and not knowing about the Lev Bell signing. CEH in a lot of leagues was going at like the 104 or the 105 in one quarterback leagues. It was going Saquon, Kamara, Zeke, and CEH, or excuse me, CMC, and then CEH as the 5th person off the board. And then sometimes Michael Thomas splattered in there to where his average ADP was the 5th pick before Cook, before Henry, before all Hill, Tyreek, before all kinds of people, Jacobs. And to me, that made me out on CEH all year. And so I think I agree with everything Dallas said about his upside and ability. I totally agree on him as a running back, but just that ADP was just not for me. And he's not been a terrible running back. I think except with RB14 this year. But I mean, you just imagine going into the season where you took CEH over Dalvin Cook. Obviously if you took CMC and stuff like that, this health and Barkley, but I mean, or even Derrick Henry. And so for me, it's like what people expected him to do this year for the Chiefs, he did not do. Doesn't make him a bad running back, doesn't make him a bad dynasty asset, but for in this season, from your expectations, he did not reach that. And so again, as I say, and maybe it's my lifetime quote, I don't hate any player. I just hate their ADP. And that was the biggest gripe with CEH. The only player I hate is Miles Sanders. But and so I think if CEH comes back down to earth this year and he's in that late first or early second round, sure, sounds great. But definitely someone that I was avoiding at that price, and it seemed to so far have kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, the main reason, like, I've always been like kind of disagreeing, like in my head, to anytime you talked about CEH being a bust, being a disappointment, and all that, it's like my mind wasn't really going with ADP. My mind was going off of what I saw in most leagues that I was in. he fell to like the back of the first, second. He's like the RB7, 8 off the board. And I was like, yeah, he's RB9, RB10, but he's been super consistent all year. He's just not really had any boom games. So I was like, I was fine with it. Like where I do have him at, I drafted him at like the RB7, RB8. So like for me, I didn't really bother me at all that he didn't do quite. I'll admit he didn't do what I was hoping, but he also didn't cost me any games. He was actually the one part of my team I could just set and just not care because I knew I was going to get my 15 points out of him and just move on. But I wasn't getting the 30s that I was hoping for, at least occasionally. So like he absolutely is based on once you show me the ADPs and seeing that he really was as high. I think the highest at one point was like a 4.25 was his average ADP, which is just ridiculous. I 100% agree if you tell me that's what I had to pay for him, but I just didn't have to pay that for him and didn't usually see him going for that. That's why in my mind I didn't see him as burning me, but I absolutely, if I looking back on it, like if I would have taken him over, Dalvin Cook or in some cases even Kamara, like that's just looking back on it, those people have to hate how the season went for them, unless of course they just hit everywhere else. You can't take a hit like that in the first round unless you hit like everywhere else. That's why these are so important, because a lot of times if you do hit in the first round, you can miss a lot in the rest of it and still be okay. But if you miss in those early rounds, it's usually your season.
Let's shout out to my home league. Again, I'm in Kansas City. So the ADP of all Chiefs is completely outrageous. But in one of my home leagues, Pat Mahomes went. This is one quarterback. Pat Mahomes with 101. CEMC went 2. Barkley went 3. CEH went 4. Tyreek Hill went 5. And Travis Kelce went 6. And there was no tight end premium. So, but honestly, the teams with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But at the time, I thought it was insane. Yeah. Which is in Dallas, I said before, like my anti-Chiefs drafting, even though I love the team in real life, it's just you can't get Chiefs in this area in any kind of league. And so it's the Chiefs are a crazy phenomenon. I mean, we have 2 winners and then one that's a possible bust. But something that I'm so interested in the next couple of years how those players and their development and performance goes.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see because I feel like he fit really well there. And so I don't know if they get rid of him. It's Le'Veon Bell. Like, I really think their system with their running back right now is working for them. Le'Veon's coming in and getting like, fantasy-wise, he's getting like 6-7 points. And CEH still getting you like the 15 or whatever when he plays. And so, like, as much as I hate it for CEH, I could absolutely see a world, especially if they win another Super Bowl this year, where Bell just resigns for not a whole lot. And then they just kind of as long as he's cheap, obviously. They're not going to pay Bell, but because of the paycheck he got from the Jets, I could easily see him being at that point in his career where he's like, this is a really fun environment. We're winning games, which is, something he's used to with Pittsburgh and kind of got away from to go get the bag. And now he's back. I think bridges are burned in Pittsburgh, so I don't think he'll go back there. So I could really see a world where he just plays his last few years out. Because he's such a, from what I get, I don't know him obviously, but he seems like he's a really laid back kind of person. And anybody that knows the situation in Pittsburgh, I can't imagine anybody blames him for what he did. But that being said, there were a lot of people upset with him. I was always on his side of, that you want to do what you've done for them and they still don't pay you, leave. Like, that's kind of a no-brainer. So I could see a world where they re-sign him, and if so, his CEH's dynasty value drops pretty significantly for me, just because running backs have such a short shelf life that by the time, if Bell re-signs like a 2-year contract and actually stays both of those and becomes the Frank Gore, CEH could end up turning into Devin Singletary, and that's just a horrible thought. So, from a few years ago, now obviously it's Zach Moss instead of Frank Gore, but yeah, so CEH is a very interesting one. To round out my list of busts that I had was, the first one pains me as a Cowboys fan, but it's just the truth, is Ezekiel Elliott. He's just, I don't know what it is. Obviously it's Dak went down, but Zeke didn't look right even when Dak was there. He was putting up good games. He had good fantasy outputs, but he still didn't quite look like the Zeke that we're used to seeing. And then since then,
Right.
I it's not just that he's having loaded boxes and defenses know what's in, they're trying to shut him down. He just doesn't look as good. Like, he doesn't look as fast. And I hated saying it because all offseason I heard that he's not as fast, he's lost a step and all that. And quite honestly, anybody that said that before the season, like based off of last year, I think you're nuts. Like, he had a horrible year and still was like the running back 4 and had consistency all year long. He's the most consistent running back in football last year. That was his. He didn't have any boom games, but he had 0 bust games, and so like he was the perfect running back that you just throw in and don't care and get you 20 points a week and just be happy with it. And so it pains me to say, but he genuinely is a bust this year, and I really don't know what to think about him next year. I made one of the worst trades I've ever made in my entire life. It was about week 5 or week 6, I think. I made a trade where I traded Dalvin Cook and I got Ezekiel Elliott and I think a second round pick or something like that. And like at the time, I was like, yeah, give me Zeke in a second for Dalvin. That's for sure. And then now the way the season's played out, I'm like, dear God, I got robbed. The way it's looking, but Cook is somebody else too that you never know. But it's and then the last one is I guess it's been long enough now. He's had some good games. That's why I try to put this off. But I think overall in a season, I can still have a little miniature victory lap on Lamar Jackson. It's just been I and this is a draft capital thing because all the people who are all about Lamar is going to come out and say, well, he's done good. He's got 27 and 30 and this and that. He has not done even close to what you guys were hoping for when you were taking him in the first and second round. And don't even pretend he has. And I got absolutely drugged through the mud for saying he would fall all the way down to quarterback number 4. Like, I still gave him, looking back on it now, 4 was generous. And so, like, but I remember back then, I was like, you're nuts. There ain't no way. 4, like, that's just that massive L to reference a specific comment. But it's, if you guys go back and look, we've got a clip of me basically explaining almost exactly what happened to Lamar this year, except I was being nice about it. He ended up being a whole lot worse than I thought he would be. So based on what your draft capital was that you had to spend on Lamar Jackson, that is 100% a bust. But the bust of the year award, and that's why I don't ever like giving the bust of the year award kind of thing to a quarterback either, because it happens every year. I mean, everybody always spins up on somebody, and then he comes out and does nowhere close to what he did the year before. If you remember Dak's rookie year, absolutely torched the league. He's he's a top 11 quarterback the next year, but he wasn't one of the top guys. Like, he was going like quarterback 5 or 6, right, I think, that next year. So that is our bust of the year award, goes to Kenyon Drake, deservingly so. But we had to mention all these other people. Give credit where credit is not due. So yep, we're gonna go ahead, and this is our last one. I'll let you do the big reveal, Jay, just because I feel like you've got personal ties to this one, especially with your like I said, it wasn't some hot take, but it was like, people need to slow the roll with some of this nonsense in these drafts that happen. So we uploaded a clip of you breaking that down earlier. So we'll go ahead and let you announce our MVP, fantasy MVP award.
Yeah. So our fantasy MVP is Travis Kelce. And for both of us, I mean, for me, it wasn't close at all. I mean, there's a 60-point difference of who I listed, and Dallas listed some also really guys who had really great years. But I mean, I listed a kicker and a defense because I mean, there was just no one else in the conversation. And then all of that, of course, was with the understanding that we didn't think George Kittle would be out for the whole season. I definitely thought that they would be closer, but the fact that Travis Kelce scored twice as many points this season, averages twice as many points per game this season as a tight end 8 is ridiculous. And so outside of Kittle being out for the most part, we've had all the other tight ends. Waller's had a great. Waller's been good. We've had Ebron just randomly come out of nowhere. Ingram, Hawkinson's been hot this year. Tunyon, as Al talked about. So we've had our tight ends have been around for the most part, and they're just nowhere near Travis Kelce, as stated at the beginning of the season. And so he's an MVP. I still think in a startup, I'm considering Kittle close to him, but if I'm winning a title next year, I'm still taking Kelce. And so I'm just bummed now that his ADP is going to be ridiculous, and I won't be able to grab him anymore because there's not any question marks. So, Dallas, tell me about your list, and then I'll loop back down to my other two players that I have in consideration.
Yeah, just to kind of expand a little bit more there on the end with like the whole startup thing. He got his contract extension too, so he's there for another 6 years, 5 after this year, and 4 of them were an extension on that. And he's for a lot of people, their mind goes, "Oh, he's a tight end. He's old. He's 30 years old," and so he may be 31 now. I don't know if he had a birthday or not between when I last looked. But that being said, like tight ends play till they're like 36, 37. Jason Witten's like 52, so he's still out there playing. So it's it's one of those things where like he's got a lot. He's gotten better. Like he's not shown that he's regressing at all. And what was funny about these lists here that we didn't mention, we both came up with these lists separately. Like we didn't go through them together, come up with our own, and then settle with one. And so like when we both went to choose our MVP, both of us had Travis Kelce at number 1 just because of the discrepancy between him and anything else. Like the single most valuable player that you could have on your team this year is Travis Kelce playing your tight end position, because it is absolutely unfair. Doesn't matter who you're matching up with, their tight end versus you and your tight end being Kelce, it wasn't close almost every single week. And so that was the difference maker for me. I'm sure it was for you too. It was just, it's not, when it comes to the actual definition, most valuable, like having Travis Kelce is the star of your team. I mean, getting that kind of production at the tight end position every single week, week in, week out, it's untouchable. And so I followed mine up with Stephon Diggs just because he's been huge this year, especially based on like where he was drafted at versus what he was expected to do. We all expected him to have a little bit of a bump in usage because of what they spent to go out and get him. Nobody expected this. Nobody expected Josh Allen to have the jump that he had. He's actually somebody that could probably be an honorable mention here. But just when it comes to like what you expected, but for like maybe a steal, like I said, I had him listed as a steal. But like nobody expected the leap from Josh Allen, and so simultaneously nobody expected this from Stephon Diggs. Diggs has been amazing. There's no other word than that.
Yep.
Honestly, you give him a few more touchdowns, and he's probably clearing away the number 1. But he's not had a ton of touchdowns. He's just been, 13 targets, 10 catches for 140 yards, or lines like that all year with like no touchdowns. He's still getting you like over 20 points a week. Just imagine if he was pulling in touchdowns all the time too. So he's been absolutely phenomenal. And then the last one obviously is Cook. Respect where respect's due. I mean, he's just been killing it. But there's not a whole lot to really expand on Cook other than he's just gotten touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And so they get to the goal line, they give it to him. That's just all there is to it. And that's crazy too, with having people like Justin Jefferson and Thielen feasting like they have been too, to still have Cook doing what he's doing is a testament to itself. So that those are my two. I actually really, really like Jace, even though I don't really use either of them ever. They're perfect examples of kind of the same way Travis Kelce is to your team, because if you have somebody like this at your position, it's just an unfair advantage. And you can kind of expand on like compare it to last year's, because we all know how unfair last year's was. So I'll go ahead and let you give your 2 other runner-ups here. I really like them, honestly. Like, I know you were like, I didn't know it wasn't close, so I'm just picking a kicker and a defense, but it genuinely is a good point. So I'll go ahead and let you break yours.
Yeah, the other one I picked was Younghoe Koo, the kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, because truly I have a couple leagues where we have kickers, but the scoring is a little bit amplified, and he's won me some weeks. And then when you're looking at when you draft your kicker, you don't spend a whole lot of time on there, maybe the last couple of rounds. But truly, he's he created an advantage for you to where between him and Jason Sanders from Miami scoring about 10 to 15 more points over the season more than other players, and he averages about 3 points per game more, so depending upon your scoring, of course, than like kicker number 3 or 4. So I mean, if you got a 10-team league and you have the 10th best kicker, he's scoring about almost 4 more points per game than that other kicker, and that can definitely win you a week, especially when you're talking about a smaller league or really PPR points. But getting that bonus from your kicker has been huge, and so that and same idea is for the defense. Um, the Miami Dolphins defense was probably a waiver ad early on, but they've had a fantastic season. If you have DST in your leagues, you probably took the Steelers defense early, probably the first ones off the board. Same thing with the Colts defense, the Ravens, probably just kind of the popular defenses. But Miami kind of came out of nowhere and again was creating tons of turnovers. So if you have a high turnover point league, they were getting a lot of sacks and a lot of turnovers to where you're scoring those points. That is giving you that advantage week to week. And so, if you have Stephon Diggs and you're playing against Devontae Adams, then there's probably not much of advantage for that matchup. Those two kind of wash each other out. Same idea if you're playing Kyler Murray versus Patrick Mahomes, those two kind of wash each other out. And so, but when you're playing, the Miami Dolphins defense versus the Giants defense or the Buccaneers defense, we're talking double or 4 or 5 point swings. Same idea with kickers. If you're playing with Justin Tucker or Mason Crosby, guys that we've known, Ngoku is scoring 5 or 6 more points than the other kicker. So whereas you're creating that space in areas where it's going to be close with running backs and quarterbacks and receivers because you all have the same top 20, 30, or 40. And so just wanted to include those positions because they don't always get spoken for. But if you draft it right or watch right through the waivers, it can really help you win your championship.
Yeah, to kind of expand on the Dolphins, the only thing I'll correct you on is they came out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming, kind of thing. Yeah, I hate so much for not doing that publicly, but everybody that knows me knows I talked about it like crazy in the off season. Is like one of the main tips I was giving people. I was like, do not regard the Dolphins as an easy matchup. And what did everyone, I won't say everyone, but almost everyone in the fantasy community, all you seen was posting, like, when you get to that point of the rankings of looking at early season schedules for, like, how you make your drafts and stuff like that, guys that get off to a hot start, because that's what a lot of people like to do. They try to draft guys that are going to get off to a really hot start, and then they'll kind of trade their way to make it the rest of the way to the playoffs, which is, I mean, it's a good tactic, and it works. And one of the most consistent things I heard all the time was they would start rattling off, oh, they have a really great start to the season. Oh, really? Who do they play? Oh, Jacksonville, Miami, and they just kind of casually throw the Dolphins in like nothing changed, when in reality, if you actually pay attention to more than offense, Miami probably had, offense and defense included, the best offseason out of any team in the league. Just their defense got absolutely stacked through the roof. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, I even made a personal note to myself, like, do not let yourself think that Miami's a good matchup. And it's funny because, like, anytime that they get a turnover in our home league, not our home league, in our main league, a bunch of us are in. Some of our really good friends on there. Tate is a really, really big Dolphins fan, and so as a homage to like me, just basically being on the whole, they're a great defense. Every single week when they get a turnover, which has been every single week this year, I put the uppercase, lowercase letters for like when you say something that is just nonsensical. Dolphins are a good matchup, because that's all I heard. And it's funny because did you notice Luke a few weeks ago? He goes, "Who said that?" I'm like, literally everyone. He goes, "They're a great defense." I'm like, yes, but I've been doing this all year, because if you look at the offseason, people are like, Dolphins are a good matchup. And I'm like, you guys are insane. I said, you guys are going to be really, really upset when you start your players against them and you're like, what happened? And Dolphins, I mean, dude, you add Byron Jones. They've got a bunch of they got Van Noy as well. I was like, this is stupid. Like, this defense is insane. And if Tua ends up being a hit, and then they get them, my theory is I think they're going to make a push for somebody like possibly Odell or Juju to get a bona fide number one to pair with Parker, because Parker I think is a perfect accent. I don't think he's a one, even though ego wise he probably thinks he is. But with the Twitter arguments he likes to get into. But that being said, I think he can complement really well, and I think they could really help Burrow out by getting him another piece. And I think they're going to be one of the. They could draft one, and if they do, I'm fine with that too. If they go out and they're the ones who get like Jamar Chase or whoever that fits that team best. I think they're going to be if they draft a rookie wide receiver, I could see that being one of the highly targeted ones, just to have the young gun that's going to be paired with Tua, just like Higgins with Burrow and situations like that. So not to go on too long of a tangent about a defense, but yeah, that's they've been great. They're kind of like the Patriots from last year. I mean, it really the Patriots from last year were literally so good that I removed defenses from all of my leagues. I'm not even kidding, because every single one of them that had a defense, the team that had the Patriots was in the championship. It was the one most consistent thing I saw last year, because it was just unfair. I mean, it genuinely was unfair, because you couldn't compete with that. They did nothing to draft him. They just went off the first week and they picked him up, and then they were just set for the rest of the year, dropping 30 points a week on your defense, and your whole team could do bad, but you win because of the defense. And I was like, so it was just those are really, really good mentions in both of those, because they have the exact same impact that Travis Kelce has. They're onesie positions, and if you have somebody that dominates something like that, it's just clearing away. And that's why Travis Kelce, to come back full circle, is just above and beyond the best option here for MVP. Like I said, paying homage to others. One other honorable mention I forgot to mention, so for all of you out there that are big on it, the rookies, the one that I meant to list as well as an honorable mention is Brandon Ayuk. He absolutely deserves at least a mention. He's been killing it this year. And I think when it comes to receivers, he's been the second best rookie behind Justin Jefferson. I think he deserves that title at least. Do what? Do what?
That's spicy. I like it. The second best receiver?
Second best, not like I wouldn't take him second best in Dynasty, but like this year performance, yeah, second best rookie wide receiver behind him. I don't know who would really compete with that, honestly. I mean, Lamb definitely didn't after Dak went down. Unless I'm drawing a blank on somebody, Judy's been hugely disappointing, and it's not his fault at all. And then Ruggs is Justin, or what is his name? John Ross 2.0. So like I don't know. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody significant. Claypool. See, even Claypool. I mean, I take Ayuk over Claypool any day. I mean, you look at their recent outputs. I mean, it's just been consistency out of Ayuk, and so Ayuk has been 100%, in my opinion, the second best rookie wide receiver. And I honestly don't think the gap's as big as everybody thinks it's been either. When you look at the fact is that Ayuk has missed games, and that's why the gap's there. But if you look at points per game basis, I've not actually looked into it, but I guarantee you it's a lot closer than you think it is, because he's been absolutely tearing it up. So that being said, so let's go over these one more time. I'll run through them real quick. Our quarterback of the year award has went to Patrick Mahomes. Our running back of the year award went to Dalvin Cook. Wide receiver of the year award went to Tyreek Hill. Tight end of the year award went to Travis Kelce. And our rookie of the year went to James Robinson. Our steal of the year went to Mike Davis. Bust of the year went to Kenyon Drake, with kind of a split with CEH. Like I said, it was just kind of a definition-based thing, is honestly the only reason we didn't go with CEH. But we'll give it Kenyon Drake, but just know that CEH is pretty much right there with him. And then our MVP, fantasy football MVP of the year, has been Travis Kelce. Again, this disregards playoffs. This does not count anything. Doesn't count the game Diggs just had or anything like that. This is all 100% regular season based. And so these guys have absolutely been dominant. Is there anything else you want to add before we head on out of here?
No, just the only thing I want to add was, Hunter Henry, who's a big fan of, he's had a great season this year.
Mm-hmm.
Played really well as a tight end. Had a great game last whatever it was. Friday. Thursday.
Yep. Thursday. Yep.
the last Thursday night. I'll be Saturday. Yeah. These Saturday guys are messing me up. Mm-hmm. The tight end 7. Travis Kelce is averaging double his score this year. So just just for perspective
Yeah,
of how
just for
dominant he's
anybody
been.
who's disagreeing with our MVP pick, I want you to actually take a look into actual impact that he's had on your team. That's what we're going for here. How much has he helped you win your matchups? And if you've had Travis Kelsey, I guarantee you agree with us, or at least you should. And if you haven't had Travis Kelsey, you probably still agree with us for the times you've played against him, and you lost just because you, even if you're really really good, you could go toe to toe at every position. You ain't matching that at tight end. I don't care who you have. Even George Kittle was not matching that. No, George Kittle matched it that one week. If we would have ended up doing performance of the year, that would have been one of the contentions when he missed like the first 3 games and then made up for it in one game. Yeah, so that has been our fantasy football awards this year. Hopefully, you guys, if you have any different ones or different picks, you can go through and leave comments of exactly who you would have at each one. Which one do you agree with, disagree with? Make sure you leave a comment on the whole James Robinson take. Quick question on that was, do you think he's their running back of the future? Do you think they bring somebody else in there and it becomes a committee and we're all disappointed? Unfortunately, the NFL does not revolve around fantasy football, because if it did, then we would have no questions like that. GM should know that they just need to listen to fantasy football Twitter. That's the best way to get any kind of information on how to run a football team.
100%.
But no, all in all, though, this has been a really fun episode, and I'm actually really excited for the off season here. This is not, by the way, for those of you curious, this is not one of those channels that goes dead in the off season. We're a Dynasty channel too. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with that too. We don't just show back up when redraft season kicks in again. We are, honestly, I'd say our hearts are mostly with Dynasty, but the information people are looking for and content people are looking for is mostly redraft. But I'm glad to see Dynasty starting to get more and more popular every year. So be sure to, like, don't worry. Playoffs are here. We are still going to be live going. Like I said, I was just on call for the last 2 weeks. That's kind of why we had another gap. At my job, I can get called at any second when I'm on call and have to leave. And we sit down and record these for, an hour and a half on end. And it just wouldn't have worked out if I had to leave in the middle of it. And then we're showing back up in different outfits, different emotions on it. We just like to do these all in one sitting. So thank you guys so much for all the support so far. If you guys haven't caught on already, because we've done 2 of them on here so far, hit us up on Twitter. We have started, along with our friends Luke and Ryan, we have started a Discord for trading cards. So that's sports cards, any sport, and then also Pokemon cards, stuff like that. We have started a Discord for this, and we have done. I have done 2 breaks on here. Jay plans on doing his card breaks on Twitter, on our official Twitter account. You should be able to see all that on the screen right there above us. That being said, go let us know if you guys are interested in joining that, and we can send you the invite to that. Unfortunately, I can't just put an invite link in the description because they expire. That being said, if you guys are interested in trading cards, football cards, baseball cards, basketball, we've got a group where people get on there and sell. They post breaks. If you're not sure what a break is, it's where you get a box and then you split up divisions. Jay's actually got like 2 or 3 of them that he's got running right now, and I think 1 or 2 of them in tomorrow night. So when you're watching this, it'll be later tonight. So go check out eBay.
We'll add a link to it on there to add it.
Okay. Well, we'll put a link on there to your eBay. Like I said, this is just the last second for those of you that are really dedicated and stayed through this whole thing and you want to check this out. He's got a couple breaks where you buy a box of cards and then you actually split them up in divisions or teams or etc. However you want to split it up for shares for cheaper than what you would have to buy the box for. And basically you break it live on stream by opening the packs, and whichever team or division or whatever you got assigned, any card that's pulled is yours. If you really want a full example on our channel here, you can just go watch one of the streams that I've just done on the 2 breaks, and that's exactly what you do. And so, like, it's really cool. I just pulled a Joe Burrow rookie patch in my last one. Absolutely insane card. Was really, really nice. I was not expecting that pull, and then the pack before that was Jonathan Taylor, so it was pretty neat to get 2 really nice rookies. But of course, in cards, the quarterbacks are above and beyond the best ones you can get. and it hurt me too because like I don't get to keep that card. I sold the break, and but it's really really exciting when you're that person watching it and that card pops up for you. And so
Yeah.
it's a really really fun world. It's a really really good hobby. It can be expensive, of course, but that's the point in breaks. It makes it cheaper for you. I mean, you can't always afford to go drop $40, $50 on a box of cards, but you can afford to drop $10 on a chance to win something that could be make your money back three, fourfold. Or if you just hold on to it for years, a lot more than that. But thank you guys so much for the support thus far. Make sure you follow us on Twitter if you aren't already at Pick on the Block, at Dallas FFO, and at the FF Outpost. And again, we'll have his eBay in the description, or you can go down and click on that, and you can just go to his active items he's selling, and you can see all the different stuff he's got. It's 100% fantasy card or football or trading cards on there, right?
That's it. Just
Okay.
cards.
Yeah, so just cards on there when you go look. So if you're into that world, if not, disregard everything we said, and we'll see you. But thank you guys so much for the support. And Jay, anything else you want to add?
No, just have a good holiday season and whatever you guys celebrate. Enjoy that.
Yeah, great of me not to even say, Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas and all that fun stuff when we're a couple days away from it starting. But yeah, absolutely. Hope you all enjoy your time. Stay COVID safe and enjoy your family get-togethers and all that stuff. And hopefully, guys, you get get what you're wanting, or your kids are getting what they're wanting, all that fun stuff, and got some football to enjoy, basketball to enjoy. That's about to start up for those of you into that. So I'm excited for it. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next one, and we are out.
Yes.
Bye.
All right.